Hey everybody, Yahav here. Usually the bonus episodes are only accessible to the Patreon supporters. If you want to be one of them, you're welcome to check out the link in the show notes. But this time I decided to open this bonus episode to the general public and let everybody hear it. Today I'm here with Aharon. Those of you who haven't heard his full interview, I really recommend listening to it. This is a bonus episode, an extra part that we decided to record. So we're going to have a conversation about something that's close to your heart, Aharon. Hi.
Yes, I have. I think it is the thing that is most close to my heart in all of the world. This person, this issue, this story that I wish to share with you and your listeners.
So tell us about this person.
This person is my brother Nachshon. He passed away 15 years ago. Exactly 15 years ago, a few days, give or take. And this year it will be the first time since he passed away that I won't come to his memorial. I've been there in Jerusalem, in the huge cemetery of Jerusalem, every year, at the beginning of September, Vav Elul, by the Hebrew calendar, standing there with my family, reading prayers from the Bibles, from Tehillim, reminding ourselves about Nachshon.
And this year you're not going to be there because you're going to be abroad.
Yeah, the current situation in Israel is so difficult for me, in Israel and in Palestine. And I needed to take some time abroad in other country to get some perspective and to be able to breathe again. I don't do that often, and I was able to go only during this period. So for the first time, I won't be there with my family.
And why did you decide to talk to me about this on the podcast? And other than wanting to commemorate your brother?
A few weeks ago, I read an article that really shocked me. It shocked me to the bone. It was a testimony of a Palestinian woman from Gaza that her son was killed by an attack dog of the Israeli army. And the reason that this headline shocked me even more than all of the death and suffering that is surrounding us is because this young man that was killed, he had Down syndrome. And my brother Nachshon, he had a Down syndrome as well. And everyone that's had the chance to meet a Down syndrome person know that those persons are very special and they have some commonality. Of course, every person is unique and special as its own. But Down syndrome, it's like another family, they kind of look the same, they have the same characters, specific character of Down syndrome that separate them from other people. And also a special behavior. They are intellectually or mentally, they are far behind, you can say. They are like children, even when they are in their 20s or 30s or even older. You know what? I will stop talking about Down syndrome in general and I will start to talk about my brother Nachshon. Because I can say from knowing him that he knows to compensate for the lack of intellectual abilities with emotion. He knew exactly how to express his emotion even though he could not express his thoughts. Nachshon died when he was 21 years old. The last thing that caused his death was a lung infection. But he was ill all of his life. I remember months over months of being with him in hospitals. He went through a very dangerous surgeries, a few of them. So the cause of his death, it's like a medical complication that it is common in Down syndrome people.
And he died when he was in his early 20s.
Yes,
right?
but behaviorally, he was more like 5 years old in some aspect, in other aspects like teenager, in other aspects like as his age, he never spoke clearly. I always needed my mother to translate me his intentions because I weren't able always to understand him. But my mother did. My mother knew exactly what he meant, even though his words were not clear at all.
And you told me that on his grave, there was a saying that really reflects who he was.
Yes, I'm a writer. This is my profession. But this very short text is the most important text that I have ever taken part in writing.
Oh, you put together this text?
With my family.
Together?
Yeah. I remember we were at my grandparents' house in Jerusalem after the funeral, and we decided that this is what will be written on his tombstone.
And what was the translation to English, basically?
It says, abundance of love and joy, innocent and pure from sin. His legacy is a love for life.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I think the words pure from sin, especially characterizing him. And I think that this is something that's also common to other Down syndrome people. Because the lack of intellectual abilities also prevents them from so many manipulation and wrongdoing intentionally that other people are really, it's in the habit of other people. And he was really innocent. He was not perfect. There were times that he was angry. There were times that he was annoying. Many times, like any other brother. But there was no sin in that. It was pure expression of his emotion.
So if I take you back to the story that you read about in Gaza that really shocked you to your bones, as you said, do you think this is what really stood out for you, and this is what put you in such state of shock? Is that, people are talking about killing innocent people, but when it comes to a young man with Down syndrome, would you say that you felt like this would be a particularly innocent person, or do you see it differently?
I will explain. The reason that it shocked me so deeply, it wasn't because of the specific incident or the specific horrible event. Because event like this happen in their hundreds every day in Gaza in the West Bank. And the reason came from my deep disappointment from the Israeli public. People that are willing to open their eyes and open their hearts for what that is happening right now in Gaza cannot ignore the fact that innocent people are being killed with no reason, from a pure need for revenge, with lack of basic respect for human life. A few months ago, 3 Israeli hostages were killed by IDF. And I thought that this event will shock everyone in Israel. Everyone will understand that if we are killing our own people, our own hostages, so how can we trust the army and the government that all the other people that they are killing are really worth dying because they are Hamas or Nukhba or, terrorists, and all the reason that people are justifying this killing. And it didn't happen. When I read the headline about Mohammed Bahar, that was his name, this young Down syndrome man from Gaza, I knew that there is no way that someone can argue that this person took part in the 7th of October attack, that this man is a terrorist. No one can claim that. For other people, you can lie about it, but here you cannot even lie about it. And yet, I read this story, And I read the IDF spokesman respond, and I knew that it won't change anything.
Even though it was a really brutal way of dying, like he was basically bit by an attack dog and left by the soldiers to die from his wounds while his family was in the other room.
Yeah, this article was way too graphic. I remember that I saw a mention of this story in my Twitter feed, and I decided that I don't want to read it. I cannot handle it. But then it came again from another person that I follow, and then another. So I decided, okay, at least I will see what it said there. And the writer that brought this testimony decided to add a trigger warning. Israeli soldiers went into their house and they had an attack dog with them. And the dog attacked Muhammad. His mother told that he never spoke, but the first and last words that he says was to the dog, "Khalas ya habibi, stop it. Stop it, my love, my friend." And then, according to her testimony, they dragged him to another room and she stayed and hear his screams while he was dying. And the soldiers refused to bring him water. I read it and I couldn't believe that this really happened. I couldn't believe. But the IDF spokesman approved it. Not all of the details, but they approved the story. And they left him to rot in the ruins of his home. And only later his uncle came and found his body. No one deserves to die like this. No one. And if someone will say that this was an act of self-defense, of a right to defend ourselves, to prevent other terror attacks, you cannot claim this for this person. No Down syndrome man or woman is able to take part in organized violence. It is not possible. So how can you say that all the other people that killed in Gaza, you can justify their killing? And I want to shout it out so everyone will hear it. But I know that it won't do anything. The last few months, I'm walking in Tel Aviv streets, in other places in Israel, and I feel that I cannot trust anyone. I talk to old friends, and then I realize that they are supporting of the genocide in Gaza. Not to mention some of my family members that are taking an active part in the ethnic cleansing in the West Bank.
Have you tried speaking to your family about this incident, this specific incident?
No, I didn't dare to open it. This is why I am also so afraid that my family will hear this conversation, because I know that it can break their heart, and I don't know how.
It seems like your heart is broken.
My heart is broken for 15 years. Since Nachshon died. I miss him so much. And what's happening here, it's like shredding my heart. Most of the people in Israel and in Palestine looking on the populations that live between the river and the sea and think that there are two groups, the Palestinians and the Israelis. But between these two distinct groups, people with Down syndrome are not really part of the national narrative. They cannot understand it. It does not apply to them.
I think generally people with disabilities, there's something about, being different and not being able to be part of the wider group, the wider collective, that I think creates a different story.
Yeah.
It was also true about Iyad Halak that was killed in Jerusalem a few years back, and he had autism.
Yeah. And he became a symbol. And his picture holding the plant. The story of Iyad Halak also shocked many people. At that time, there was a little bit more attention to this kind of stories. A little bit. I think most of Israelis still justified his killing.
I think that even the people that didn't try to justify it believed that the legal system would hold the people who killed him accountable. And they didn't in the end.
Yeah.
And I think that when it comes to Gaza, there's this understanding that nobody will be held accountable for anything done there.
It is so frustrating. This is why I feel that I cannot stay here, that I need to be far from here, far from the people that are not seeing it. And it is not easy because some of those people are the people that I love the most, my family.
So you said you wanted to kind of dedicate this conversation between us to commemorate your brother as well. And I'd like to hear a little about him and what it was like to grow up with a brother with Down syndrome and kind of be his caregiver as well, as you've told me.
Yeah, I was his older brother. He was 8 years younger than me. It made my childhood difficult, I should say, because all of my parents' attention was on him, at least in the early years, but not only. Many times that we were needed to be with him in hospital. I remember a lot of nights staying with him in different hospitals, a lot of worrying, a lot of tension in the time that he needed this medical care. But also very special moments that I didn't knew to appreciate at the time because I was young and I was embarrassed, and I felt that sometimes I felt ashamed. As a child, as a teenager, you want to fit in, and then something weird like a special brother prevent you from being normal, even though you want to be. But now, looking backwards, I really appreciated those moments. Because most of all, he was an actor. He really liked the attention of an audience. In family events, he was walking toward wherever there is a microphone, taking the microphone, taking some random piece of paper, holding it backwards, and reading a speech to the audience. And as a child, I was sitting there with my hands on my face, embarrassed for my weird brother. But other people really liked it. He really liked to sing in front of people. In his last days, there was a very famous Israeli singer that came to a summer camp for special kids that he attended to. And his last photo is him standing next to Shuli Rand with the microphone and singing.
Really famous singer.
Yeah. He was not embarrassed of his weirdness. Even when he was even 18 years old, he liked to wear a cape. He take a Purim costume and walked with it all day long, acting like a character from a Disney movie. He had a presence.
And he loved dogs, right?
Yeah, when I was a child, we had a small dog, a poodle that we found. And Nachshon really liked her. I remember him hugging her, playing with her. There were a lot of pictures of him with the dog. Every dog that he met, it was like a joy event. And now when I own my own dog, and after I heard about this horrifying event, the murder of Mohammed Bahar in Gaza by a dog, it really makes me think about how the ways that we treat other around us, people or animals, affect their behavior and can pass away violence tendency. Because the dogs that killed Muhammad, if he was trained differently, it would never had happened. The fact that they are attack dogs being used by the Israeli army is shocking as itself, because the image of a German shepherd held by a Nazi soldier, it is so strong, it is so embedded in our mind when we are remembering the Holocaust. The German trained their dogs to attack us, our grandparents, because they were Jews, because they were different. And the dog as itself can be a friend, even though they had their hunting instinct in them, even though they are killers because of the way they evolve. They are animals that all of their instincts are tending into violence. And yet we know that if we take this hunter, this killer, and treat them with love and feed them and give them shelter and give them security, they can be the most peaceful creature in the world.
And you say this because of your dog?
Yeah, when I took him, it was because his previous owners saw him a few times attack children. He didn't harm anyone, just threatening them. But yet they were very scared. And when he came to me, and he knew that I will be there for him, and also he knew that I will be his boss, because dogs need someone with attention and a free will to train them. And since then, he was in situation where children are really harassing him, and he never attacked or threatened kids again. We can tame our violence instinct. If we can do that for dogs, we have to do it for ourselves. And right now, what is happening is the complete opposite. We are using dogs to attack people, and we are using our instinct and our desire for revenge and amplifying our violence tendencies, and cause so much suffering for so many people. I believe in people. I believe in humanity. But I believe that humanity can go down to the deepest levels of morality and can go higher if we choose to. And right now we are choosing the path of death.
I want you to tell me a little about the situation you were in when you were reading about this. How did you react? How did you feel?
I actually read the full testimony only as preparation for this conversation. Before that, I read the headlines. I tried to read the article itself, but couldn't. And when I did, I felt overwhelmed and shocked. I started to cry. I said it again and again, I don't believe that this could happen. And it was the descriptions, the graphic description. It was so brutal. It was so brutal, I think, also to bring this to the reader. It is such a horrifying story without the details, but the writers insist to include all the details. This story reminded me of Nachshon as the first time that I saw the headline. And when I saw Muhammad's picture lying on the couch he's very different from Nachshon, but this character of Down syndrome people, every time I see Down syndrome everywhere, it's a reminder. And now to see it under such terrible words, and I felt lonely because I wanted other people to be shocked as I am.
And your family, particularly? Did you think they would feel something about this that they don't feel about anyone else in Gaza being killed?
I don't know. But maybe the options that my family will not be shocked as I am made me even more lonely. Because I talk to my family about how I see the situation and the events right now. And even before that, it is not easy to get empathy to Palestinians without getting also some kind of excuse or justification for their situation and rolling over the responsibility. We had to do it. We don't want to kill children, but the Hamas does not leave us no choice. All of the things that Israel is telling themselves and refusing to acknowledge the fact that it is not true.
When you say you felt even more lonely from the thought that maybe they wouldn't feel the same as you about this incident, would you say it's because you already feel some kind of a kinship with them that's very unique about having a family member with Down syndrome? That's something that, this is special. Not everybody gets to experience this. And this is something that connects you to your family in some way, of all of you having that experience together that other people don't. And so you're already kind of like together in this somewhat of a loneliness in the world in that aspect. And now there's another thing that makes you feel lonely, and you would want them to feel this with you, just like they do about Nachshon, and you assume that that's not going to happen.
And maybe I'm being too harsh with them. I'm afraid to try to open it with them.
Are you doing this because you are hoping this would help you open this conversation?
Yeah, this is one of my intentions. But it also can be worse, as I said. People can treat it as a cynical use of my family grief to bring some political agenda. But the grief and the political situation cannot be separated right now, right here. Most of all, I want all of us, not just my family, to think about Mohammed's mother, how she raised a special kid in such a difficult situation, difficult circumstances. Even before the 7th of October, life in Gaza was so harsh, so difficult.
Yeah.
Because of the Israeli policy toward Gaza. I know that people are saying they could build their own Singapore. It is also a lie that the Israeli telling themselves. And she raised him, and she loved him, and he loved her back, and other family members. And then to lose him in such a horrible way. Nachshon died in a hospital. He died in his sleep. He did suffer, but everyone around him did everything they could to reduce this suffering. Try to save him. They failed because not everything is up to us, but they really did their best. It was not just the people around him, it was the whole system around him. The hospital, the medical system, the welfare system, our family, strangers. Mohammed Bahar did not get any of that. The system surrounding Mohammed Bahar at the time of his death aimed to kill him, or didn't care about his life. He could have been saved if after the dog attack, someone would give him some medical care, some help. And I cannot stop thinking about it. About him suffering, dying with horrible pains, while his mother can hear him scream. I really try to not think about it, but I cannot anymore.
Aharon, thank you for sharing this. I know it's very personal and very difficult for you. And on the other hand, I know that this is something you want people to hear. But you've been in tears this whole conversation, and so have I, actually. So I want to thank you and ask if you have anything to say to close this conversation.
Yes, I want to talk to my family if they are listening to this. I want to say that I'm really, really sorry if I caused you any pain by bringing this story and connecting it to Nachshon. It is not what I wish for. I don't want you to be in pain. I don't want to make you sadder. But I want you to understand me. And I want us all to be able to become human again. We lost it. We lost it over the last year. We may never agree about everything. But over the last few months, it became more than just disagreement. It became a huge gap that I think it's about humanity and about the ability to not give up, about our ability to feel empathy to people that are different from us. And I know that it's very difficult to have this empathy after the 7th of October and after what is keep going and this violence that's been targeted at us as well. But we have to become human again. We have to embrace empathy to our life. And maybe this specific story will be a small bridge that will help us to close this gap, because this is all what I'm asking for, that we will be human again.
Thank you, Aharon.
Thank you, Yahav, for listening.
I'm in tears as well, as I said. But we'll finish here. And hopefully this will reach ears that are able to listen and hearts that are able to open.
Thank you.